G'day fellas and welcome to a casted game of Age of Empires 4. We are here on the ranked ladder for a little bit of, well, how's it going? We're checking in, we're seeing exactly what is going to be going on today. Have a look at this. A little bit of a spoiler here. We've got a Rus player and we have got an absolutely god tier hunting cabin. Let's introduce our players for you. In the south of the map, in the color yellow, playing as the Rus, it's Roger Scruton. Currently sitting at about 1800 ELO on the ladder, a little bit under top 100, or a little bit above top 100. I don't know how you say it. He's on the good side of top 100. Meanwhile, towards the north side of the map, in the color red, playing as the Japanese, it's Firehick. He's in the same league, so these guys are pretty evenly matched. It's going to be a good game today, I suspect. It's a fun matchup as well. The Japanese, the Rus, both civilizations with cavalry archers, something that is always been difficult to balance throughout games in history. I know playing Age of Empires 3 quite a bit, there was a lot of Dragoon spam. So Dragoon was like a cavalry unit that had a gun, and it was always difficult because if you had the APM, if you had the actions per minute, you could manage everything in your base, and you could still make sure that your cav was shooting and scooting. And that's a really difficult thing to balance from a developer's perspective. But I think at the moment, they've done well to balance it the way that it is. I don't think there's any really outstanding or outlier units. The Horse Archer in particular is quite good. Not to be confused with the Cav Archer of the Ottomans, different units. But yeah, anyway, welcome to a caster game. If you haven't already, make sure you go down, hit that like button. I'll allow you to. Now, we're going to take a look at this early hunting cabin, 45 trees. That is ridiculous. And he's actually got a second one over on this side, so only 27. He missed out on a premium spot, a primo spot right here, a preem spot, Chum. That's a little bit of the cyberpunk coming in, I tell you what. Wasn't that a good game, man? You know, I actually just read an article. It wasn't an article, it was a Reddit thread. It wasn't even a Reddit thread, it was the title of a Reddit thread. And it said, Cyberpunk 2077 hits overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam for the first time ever, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, right? Like, it definitely had quite a bit of a tough start, but it managed to pull itself back. But have a look at this. Firehick going to be putting down the Kura storehouse on the top side of the base. He's got enough space in between the town center, but one thing to note is this wood line is definitely going to take some time before it actually enables you to have those farms through. So I don't even think you're going to get this one at the top. So realistically, he's going to be working with maybe 2 farms here, 4 farms here, which is more than enough to start with. It's going to be fine. The other thing is the forge just kind of conflict as well. That's going to block out 2 farms. So what are the things to note? But I guess you have your wood being produced a little bit sooner. But I mean, ideally, you'd want all your farms. The sooner the better. On the other side of the map, though, we'll ride on board with Roger for a little bit. He's got quite a few scouts out on the map. Expect to see some professionals out here today. I wouldn't expect to see any amateurs. It's going to be the Golden Gate for him. Probably going to be looking to sell either some wood or some food early on in this game. Probably food makes the most sense. And then look to try and pick up that professional scouts technology. We can see he's out on the map at the moment, though interestingly only has the 2 scouts. Normally you do see those Rus players quite happy to go into a 3rd scout in the Dark Age. And while technically at 331 we are in the Dark Age, we're well and truly at the transition period now. So what kind of strategies are we going to see today? You know, one thing that I've been seeing a lot more of, and I don't know, maybe it's just the games that we watch, and we only watch a very small subset of all the games, but I'm noticing Fast Imperial is becoming a real thing. So, like, we watched a couple of Beastie games, and the man doesn't hesitate. He just presses the button. He just goes straight to Imp. And I'm kind of curious, because we've seen that beginning to rift through the ladder. Players have definitely been looking to go Fast Imperial a bit more. So I'm curious as to whether we see that today, because both of these civilizations can definitely argue. Wait, is that... Yeah, okay, this is the first one that normally comes down. It starts at the 9 o'clock position, doesn't it? And then it'll work its way up and around. All right, so age up's coming through for both of these players. We'll ride on board with Roger. You can see that he's about to get enough resources for the professional scouts. There it is now. 4 scouts out at the moment. A lot of deer on this map. So you've got your first pack here with 5. Second pack with 3. So if you think about it from that perspective, normally there'd be, what, 7 times 4? So you'd be looking at 28 deer. And on this map, you've got 5, 10. And then you've got 1, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, and 4, 3. So 22. So actually not that many deer. Have I missed one? Like, we've got... Wait, is this only 2? No, it's 3 deer. So 1, 2... I always fear that I miss one. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can only see the 4 little ones. So professional scout's not going to get as much impact on this map as you would on a typical map, but it's still going to be quite significant in the early games here for Roger. So he'll be looking to try and pick that up. We do see now the scout is going to be heading into the back of the base here for Firehick. We'll check in on that north side and see how he's doing, as the second farm has now come up for him. What have we got plans for him? And it's actually going to be professional scouts. So both players opting towards the professional scouts, very aware, despite the fact, and this is what's quite interesting, the Japanese, similar to the English in that they've got this farm economy that they can rely on, but also similar to civilizations like the Abbasid in that they rely on berries. And we often see Abbasid players that just say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to go professional scouts because I don't need it. I got my berries. I'm happy with that. That'll do me. You don't see that here. Firehick is going to be looking to challenge, and it's always difficult challenging the Rus when it comes to professional scouts because they start off with so many more scouts. Look at this tempo advantage that he's got on professional scouts. Already 6 professional scouts out on the map. He's going to be looking to try and take entire packs of hunt right here at barely at the 6-minute mark. So let's check in and see how he's doing that. We're right on board with him as I introduce you guys to the drink of the day. Of course, it's drink review, and I'll let you have a quick guess just before we start. Now, it's the drink that I'm holding in my hand, not the drink that's on the table. That's important to remember because those are different drinks. I have multiple drinks. Yes, it's water. It's water. We got it again. Let's have a look. We'll give it a little bit of a tier rating right now. Give me a second here. That's S+. It's S+. The water is S+, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. It is, that's good water. I literally just got it from the kitchen. I put some ice in there, and I'm like, this is going to be good water. I can tell. Anyway, we'll check in with Firehick as the farms are starting to come up. And interestingly, we don't see the transition over to the farms yet. This is something I always like to optimize, is getting farms or vills on farms as soon as possible. Because you've got to remember, right? A sheep, it doesn't have infinite food. You take one food off the sheep, it never comes back. But your food on the farm, it's infinite. Everything on the farm lasts forever. I think there are civilizations that can kind of get it towards the point where you're almost losing it, but under almost all circumstances, it's not a big deal. Anyway, high trade house coming in. Nice little spot that he's got here. Doesn't get, there's still quite a bit of it that's not covered with trees, but hey, you can't win them all. Can't win them all. Anyway, let's check and see how we're doing on the north side. He's actually going to drop the deer carcass. Curious decision to drop the deer carcass, despite well, I mean, he's probably going to lose the scout if he doesn't drop the deer carcass. But by doing that, you then allow your opponent to take the deer from you. So it's one of those things. But the age up coming through, immediately dropping down the archery ranges. We're starting to see that development in the meta, that redevelopment heading back towards what was once powerful back in the good old days, in the days of Season 1, Season 2, Age of Empires 4. Even before the ranked season, it was quite a common thing. I remember back in the beta just having to deal with these ranged cavalry units like the Camel Archer. Oh my lord. Yeah, they were responsible for some tiers. But you know what else is responsible for some tiers? I don't know either. Where was that? I've got no idea where that segue was going. You know what was responsible for some tiers? That segue. That's for sure. Oh, Lord. Anyway, age up has now come through for our Rus player. First horse archer is on the way. Expect to see it looking to make moves out here, make waves out here. There's still plenty of deer on the map to be had. Question's going to be about whether it gets secured by the Japanese or by the Rus player. I really wish we could have that deer count. It would be so cool to see the deer possession. I don't even know how you'd classify it. You'd have to say, okay, you want deer that is... You'd almost want it like a relic, right? Like you want to have deer that's been held by the enemy and brought to within 200 range of a building. Like that would essentially be it. And then that would be your little indicator. So you can see right now, Roger Scruton would have 14 plus 2. Compared to, your normal relics, which would be like 2 plus 2 or something like that. Anyway, floating gate going to be coming up here for Firehick. Dangerous position here at the front of the base. But I think he's got good control. He's quite happy with this. If we take a look from his perspective, like he's got horsemen out on the map. He's putting out quite a bit of hurt. He knows the enemy's just aged up. It's not a big deal that he pushes this away from the town center. And I think that's a smart move, knowing that he's going to want to put farms down around this TC. But in the end, it looks like he's got 6 farms online. His Secura storehouse is now going to be converting over to wood per minute. A lot less efficient than dropping down farms. So if you were thinking, hey, I should put down some more farms, it's probably just better that you let it actually put down the farms itself. Anyway, age up about to come through for Firehick. He's got a couple of options about how he looks to play this. He could look to go into mounted samurai or to continue spamming out the horsemen. We could also potentially see him go into the honor Musha. I don't think it's likely, though, just because there's not a whole lot of a lot of heavy units out here on the map, right? Like when we think about the Onimusha, it's a crossbow compared to the horse archer, which is a bit more of, well, it's like an archer, but it's got the damage of a crossbow. It is it's quite a formidable unit. All right, well, let's check in with Firehick and see how he's doing on this north side, as the Yorishiro has gone inside the stable, and it is indeed going to be Mounted Samurai making its way out onto the field together with the Bannerman who has arrived and a couple horsemen that are yet to receive their veterancy upgrade. The horse archers able to push back these cavalry units for the moment. Relics are starting to be picked up. We do hear it's +2 in the bank at the moment for Roger Scruton. He opens up with a single monastery. Looks to bring back those relics. Meanwhile, on the north side, the Yorishiro holding Shinto priest has now transitioned out onto the map. We'll see if we can find him. There he is. And looking to secure up these relics. So he's taken one from the center. So that leaves us with a single one remaining over here. And one also in behind his base. You can see that he's already beginning to position himself out here, looking to anticipate a potential opponent on the way to gather up some of these relics, and that's exactly what he's going to find. Firehick, of course, on standby, guarding up this final relic, knows how important it is, also has the scout coming out here, and that's not what we want to do. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do this. Firehick, you were so close. And I think because he knows that there's cav units at the front of his base, he's got to kind of make a commitment here. But even just leaving one cav unit, but what beautiful timing right there from Roger. Very well done for him. Ville's going to start going down. That's actually 2 that get taken out very quickly. But now Horse Archer's going to get caught out. This is one of those things where I feel like you probably just could have left 1 or 2 Mounted Samurai over here. Shinto Priest now going to come up empty-handed. Second one in the back of the base. The split's going to be 2-3 on the relics. Who knows what the split was when it came to the deer carcasses, but I can tell you right now there are none on the minimap. So we have 100% collection of deer, we have 100% collection of relics. Players are doing well so far, and just keep in mind, you know, we're not at the 2.4k rated that Beastie and Louis MT and Vortex are at. This is 1800, so it's Conqueror 3 still, but it's Conqueror 3 plus plus. It's not Conqueror 3 plus 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 plus. And so there will be a difference eventually. We may start to see some mistakes unfolding, but so far these players have played it pretty well. All right, well, Sacred Site's now going to be going to be contested. See movement down towards the south. It's just going to be a scout out on the edges of the map. Interesting positioning here. More Shinto priests moving out towards the edges. It looks like Firehick going to be trying to secure up this Sacred Site over on the east side of the map. Horse Archer's in the middle now, going to be caught out of position. You can see it's having a little bit of a tough time here. Roger will right on board with him as he looks to try and evade enemy detection through the stealth forest. Knight's now going to be coming out as well. That should allow Firehick to justify himself moving into Onimusha. And indeed, immediately we see 2 Onimusha in the queue. Almost like he knew it was going to happen right there, that the Knight was going to come out eventually. And you know what they say, when there's 1 Knight, there's 10 Knights. At least in 10 minutes, there'll be 10 Knights. Normally, maybe a little bit shorter than that, but as long as you're not killing them. Anyway. First Sacred Site now for Firehick has been taken. Second one in the center never actually got neutralized, or rather never got captured, just because we did have enemy presence. And now a town center going to be put down for Roger in the corner. We're at the 13-minute mark. We'll switch it over to income per minute at the elite time of 13:37. That is an old gamer reference. If you gamers get that, then slap on some... You know what I'm thinking of? You guys remember the H3H3 video? The... what was it? The Gamer Air? I think that's what it was. They were, honestly, they were a bit ahead of their time. You know, they made a product. It was like, what's the word? Forced air, compressed air in a can, and they just like called it Gamer Air. Anyway, we need a bit of Gamer Air right now. As Roger brings in the reinforcements, and Firehick going to be caught out of position, tries his best to get out. Ville's also coming through. He's lost 2 so far in the game, make it 3 now. As Firehick picks off another one and manages to escape with the leftovers of this army. But yeah, definitely a little bit ahead of the time. You know, I think the only way they could have made that product better is if they'd put some RGB lights on it. Then it wouldn't have got so mocked. Because it's kind of funny when you look at it, but that's just how it is, right? Like, you take a standard computer, you slap some LEDs on it, you charge double the price, and then you call it the gaming edition. Oh, we're vulnerable, us gamers. We are vulnerable. All right, well, looks like the cleanup You know what I gotta stop saying? All right, well. I saw a YouTube comment from somebody. He said, Drongo, can you stop saying all right, well? I will try my best to stop saying all right, well. It's like a crutch that I rely on when we're going from one scene like this, and then we go have a look at this scene, and then we will use it there just as a filler. You know how in some languages, in English, we say It's the same sort of thing. I'm telling you, I've got something that I need to say. I'm just thinking about what I need to say. That's what I'm saying with that. That is the caster's because I can't be like, we got some farms. We're gonna have a little bit more pronounced English than that. All right. Well, gosh, I was picking up my drink and I was like, all right, well, it's time for some water. Give me, it's going to take a while for us to get over it. Give me a sec here with this water. Dude, that is so good. Oh, man. One thing to note, it's like 4 a.m. for me at the moment. My sleep schedule's gone a little bit off lately. We got it. Fast Imperial. That's it. Before 16 minutes. It really is happening, isn't it? Like, players are just trying to get away with as little army as they can and still make the imp happen. And as I said, like, both of these civs can go fast imp. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Firehick immediately react by doing the same thing. Now, one thing to note is he knows about the second TC. So, he should know that he wants to try and drop one down himself. It's kind of important in this situation to drop one down yourself, just so that you're not going to fall behind. Because the risk here is that if you don't go into that second TC and the game goes for another 20 minutes, that your enemy's going to have a huge economy and you're not. You're going to be on like what? Maybe, well, if you make a villager a minute, well, sorry, if you make a villager every 20 seconds and there's 3 sets of 20 seconds in a minute, that's 3 a minute. If you've got 10 minutes, that's 30 vils a minute. So in 10 minutes time, you'll have 84 vils, whereas your opponent will have 120 on top of it. Wait, is that? No, they'll have 60 on top of this. So they'd have just shy of 120, which is exactly where they'd want to be. So Roger Scruton now making his way into the Imperial Age. We do see the High Armory is online. No siege workshops coming down near it just yet, but keep in mind it's got a pretty big radius, and he'll be looking to get some upgrades early on. Onimusha now coming through. Keep in mind they do have lower damage than the Horse Archer, but they do have bonus damage against heavy units. They are a crossbow style unit, 5.5 tiles of range compared to the 4.5 tiles of range on the Rus Cav Archer. Horse Archer, sorry. Different unit. Cav Archer, Horse Archer. Horse Archer is the Rus, Cav Archer, the Ottomans. There you go. Don't get confused. I know I sure haven't been confused at all by that. Well, nice little micro that's happened so far. I think the most important thing here is that Firehick needs to make sure he's attacking the heavy units at the front, maximizing the value he's getting out of his Onimusha, and then hitting the back line with his melee units. That's essentially what you want to be doing. So it looks like he's doing a pretty decent job of it. He's having a bit of trouble with these berry bushes. He's definitely been caught out of position by that. But now Onimusha needs to kite these away. They're very, very, what's the term I'm looking for? I'm losing it. Streltsy are out already. It starts with a V. This is where I'm starting to think, like, do I have long COVID? Is this long COVID? Is this brain fog part of long COVID? They are very, like, they break quickly. What's the word I'm looking for, fellas? Like, it's not just things in the game. Like, I'm not just like, what's that unit? It's like, I'm losing actual words out here. They are very, it's not vulnerable. They break quickly. They shatter quickly. They are, I don't know. Hey, ChatGPT, tell me a word that starts with V that means that it shatters quickly. I don't know. You guys will know it in the comments. Anyway, I'm going to leave it. Otherwise, I'm just going to fumble with this for the next 40 minutes of the game. And I tell you what, I ain't got time to fumble. Not today. All right, well, Bannerman numbers are starting to rise. Firehick, interestingly, not taking this opportunity. I think, so this is sort of where you see a little bit of difference between the two mindsets. We've got Roger Scruton, who's gone 2 TC into Imperial Age, whereas Firehick appears to be doubling down on the Castle Age. He's saying, you know what, we're not going to throw down that second town center. We're not going to go Imperial Age. We're going to mass units. We're going to try and out-spam our opponent. All the resources that they're spending on that second town center, on those villages that they have to make, and that age up, we're going to try and spend those resources, the same resources, on getting more units out. And have a look at this. Spears now, together with the Streltsy. Streltsy numbers looking quite decent here. The only counter that you're really going to have to this is a nice big batch of mangoes, either that or some horsemen. That would definitely do the work. He's got a lot of bonus damage on these horsemen. Keep in mind, not only do you get the extra 5 from your Bannerman, from your +1, +2, +3 upgrades, you're also getting that bonus versus ranged units. So we're talking about a total damage of 27 on the horseman when it's up against the Streltsy. So definitely a viable counter, that is for sure. As long as you can actually get on top of the Streltsy, that's going to be the key here. And one thing to note is the units that are being mixed in for our Rus player are going to be spears. Naturally makes sense. You're not going to see any of the Kremlin Gremlins today because we do have the Golden Gate landmark, which, by the way, has 8 tickets inside it at the moment. But always something to keep in mind. Kremlin Gremlins not going to be taking part in this game. Double sprinkled emplacement here on the gold vein towards the front of the base. I'd love to see a little bit more progression towards these large gold veins. There's actually quite a bit of them on this map. Definitely not going to need to contest central locations nearly as much as you would in a normal game when typically there's only 2 of them. We do see the scout now going to go down, and it is the Takanoshima Gunsmith for Firehik. So before 21 minutes, not technically a fast Imperial, but we can say that he's been influenced by his opponent here. Now, this is sort of the elephant in the room in this game. It's the economy that is naturally growing stronger and stronger every minute from Roger. It is beginning to make its way further ahead of Firehik's economy, and he hasn't thrown down this second town center. Now, one thing that he does have, he's got the Yorishiro in the town center. Not a fan. I'm not a fan. Even though it's extra 30% production speed, I mean, it's actually not that bad when you think about it. But I feel like the Yorishiro has just got so much value in providing you permanent gold through your forges at the back. It just feels like a waste not to take advantage of it. And just going into a second TC, especially when you see your enemy going into a second TC, like, why not? Why not, man? Just do it. Just do it. Put your Nikes on. All right. Onimusha hiding away from the enemy spears. Elite upgrades yet to come in for them at the moment. We start seeing more and more upgrades on the way through. It's going to be Elite Horsemen on both sides now starting to come in. Elite Horsemen for Roger. Elite Horsemen just arriving now for Firehik as well. These units have got some decent damage that they can put out. Spears managed to get their pincers out, stop the enemy horsemen, but unfortunately, they do make a connection. In the end, the Streltsy are able to get really decent coverage on this, and you can see just how much the horsemen are struggling, but overall, in the end, he looks to get through. We also see the castle coming online, which is exactly what we needed to see at this point in the game, and Firehik does find himself a nice little advantage towards this north side. Meanwhile, towards the middle, a couple of spears and Streltsy moving out once again. And this is a combo that's so difficult to deal with. You can run this combo the entirety of this game. Streltsy and spears. And, you know, mix in a couple mangoes, mix in a couple bombards, and it's very difficult for your opponent to actually have something to respond with that. I think the best thing that you could look from a Japanese perspective is probably just mass mangonel, right? What more do you want than that? Speaking of mass mangonel, we've got Bunrai coming through, which is going to give him a couple more Yorishiros, if I remember correctly. Can chuck those into the forges and then afford some more mangonels. That was our segue. That was how we got to that. All right, well, I did it again. Sorry, don't worry, it's going to stop. Now that I'm aware of it, thank you. If there's anything else that I say, please let me know. Like, say, hey, Drongo, stop saying that. Don't tell me to stop talking about my drink of the day. All right, that's one of our things. That keeps me accountable. If you guys knew I was drinking milkshakes every day, I'd stop drinking milkshakes because you guys would be saying, hey, Drongo, you got to worry more about your cardiovascular health. You can't be drinking milkshakes every day. And I'd be, you know, I'd be getting off the milk. My milkshakes definitely don't bring all the boys to the art. No, they do not. All right, well, sorry. At least I know that it's a problem, right? It's one of those things. We'll get there eventually. I'm just gonna have to laugh at myself every time I catch myself doing it from now on. Let's check in on the south side. How's Roger doing? How's this build-up happening? He's gone for a little bit of a raid towards the north. Those units got very well damaged by the enemy castle that was positioned towards that front side. One of the things I would love to see from Roger at this point in the game is some wooden fortresses. So we'll take our first wooden fortress. We'll put it here. We'll get a sprinkled emplacement. Keep will do. Keeps nice. Keeps this protected. Definitely nice. But we want to build up some line of sight. I think it's really important that we start getting line of sight, especially on a map like this. So we do the same thing on Highview, another very good Rus map. And one of the things that you can do is pair your hunting cabins with these wooden fortresses so that all of these trees out here in the middle of nowhere are actually having some decent coverage. And you want to try and max out that passive gold as much as you possibly can. But we'll check in with Firehik now and see how he's doing as he adds in the final ring of farms around the Shogunate Palace. The upgrade finally comes through. Guarantees his Vils have got the highest possible gather rate they can get. Plus 60%. Now, when it comes to these upgrades, just keep in mind, these upgrades are bugged. If we take a look at the Forge, you'll see that there are no melee upgrades in there whatsoever. In fact, there are no upgrades in there whatsoever. He's gotten all of them. Whereas, if we take a look at the Eco upgrades, we've also got all the Eco upgrades as well, but they're just bugged for the Japanese. He's done a very good job of literally getting every upgrade. So, shout out to you, Firehik. Well done, mate. You're up against a fast Imperial today. Up against a fast Imperial of the Rus. And it is a powerful, scary amount of units that are going to be coming your way. We can see he's actually got the Bombard out now. Interestingly, we haven't had a whole lot of utilization of the High Armory yet, or at least the buildings around the High Armory, which is a little bit... I mean, you wouldn't go for the Spasskaya Tower. I think maybe you could have justified the Spasskaya Tower over here, but even then it's kind of difficult to do. We could potentially see trade on this map. Trade is in a good spot, or at least the trade posts are in a good spot for it. Battle now. Looking to begin. Onimusha doing their best to continue kiting. They're about to have incendiary arrows through. When it does come through, quite a bit of a damage bump these units will get from 18. Probably going to go a little bit closer, maybe 23, 24, somewhere in that region. Or Onimusha running through. First of the Bombards is out, going to start working its way through on the castle. You can see it's got a range of 9.5 compared to the 10 tiles of range that the Rus Bombard has got. Meanwhile, towards that top side, Horseman trying to break through. He's looking to siege down the stone walls. They're still under construction. Ville's going to look to come towards that end. It doesn't matter how little health it ends up having. As long as it gets completed before the final torch is thrown, you're going to be absolutely fine. And there he is, locked out of Heaven right now. Heaven obviously being the base of the Japanese. A beautiful place, exactly where you'd want to be. Incendiary arrows now coming through. Onimusha up to 22 Yumi damage. Very nice. Also get that extra bonus damage against heavy units. So if your enemy's making any kind of knights, then you're going to have an answer to that quickly. But realistically, it doesn't serve much of a purpose outside of that. And we see a whole bunch of hand cannoneers. Unironically, the best voiced unit in the game. All right, well, check. Sorry, I caught myself. We'll listen to the hand cannoneer a little bit more, just so that I can recover from my own. Hold on a minute. A single springled. No, not again. We've seen what happens when a single springled enters the battlefield. Is Firehik going to take this personally and start massing up his own single springled? And then it just becomes a springled arms race. But Roger now taking out a castle relatively close to his base. Fortunately, doesn't really do much. It was protecting the gold. Gold has been vacated. The Vils have been moved on. The castle towards the north is now the important one. And one thing to note is that economy. You know, we talked about it earlier. You can see that Roger's actually not that far ahead. It's only about 20 Vils at this stage of the game. So I think he may have just been idling out a little bit. Still no second town center from Firehik. Horseman moving up. He's at 149 against the 173. A lot of spears on this front. Hand cannoneers together with the Onimusha looking to try and cut that down, but you can see just how well those Streltsy do. Streltsy do not give an absolute F about the enemy cavalry, melting it completely, but they're outnumbered now. He needs to fall back and start moving away from this mass, otherwise he's just going to throw it, and that's exactly what he does. Gives up every last troop, and Lancaster's Square begins to show its strength. Meanwhile, the Ozutsu have now entered the field, taking out the first of the cav units, beginning to work down the rest of them. Big damage. Big damage. Looks like wooden fortresses are making their way around the map. Another gold. Now going to be taken on the other side of the map. I'm a little bit surprised Firehik didn't look to secure this one, but I think realistically he was always positioned towards this sort of northern quadrant And as a result, it meant this was an easy defense, whereas this one's going to be a little bit harder to achieve. Definitely can't be... I think our gold is way too far away from our sacred site to justify something in the middle here. You've got to do exactly what Roger's doing, where he's just sort of going for the one single. But take a look at this. There's a good chance this keep could potentially be denied right now. Horsemen are running towards it. Springwood emplacement is online. And if he's able to get around and pick off some of these vills, you can... it's so painful. It's so painful. Look, man. It's just one of those things. You know, this is something that I had to convince myself of this. Or not convince myself, but I had to tell myself this. Hold on. We'll worry about that later, Drongo. Wow. Wow. Ozutsu. Very nice siege from the Ozutsu. He's got a lot of them. And now that he's got so many, he can actually just start challenging any keep. Speaking of challenging the keep, so have a look at this in the north of the map. Yeah, so what I wanted to say is that you can get mad at the mechanics in a game, right? So you could be mad that the pathing of the horsemen there wasn't good. Well, you know what else you could do? You could acknowledge that the pathing of the horsemen is poor. And you can subsequently give commands that are not taking advantage of that, but acknowledging that. So what do I mean there? Instead of like giving an attack move command, you give a move command to the back here, where you know that all of the horsemen can then attack. And then that way they don't do that silly thing where they run around in circles. It's just one of those little things where it's like, you can get mad at the game, or you can understand how the game works and then utilize the mechanics of that game. So it's one of those things where, you know, it definitely takes some time to get used to. And it's obviously not optimal. You'd rather that the horsemen just worked it out themselves and actually pathed a little bit more efficiently. But Vill's actually taking out the cannon. Will find a connection. Firehicks lost a lot of Vills, but so at the same time has Roger. Hand cannoneers together with the Onimusha. Couple of ranged Yumi Bannerman here as well, buffing up all of these ranged units. Where is the rest of it? It looks like Firehick's army somewhat got separated a little bit here. He's going to be losing the high-value units. In fact, where are the Ozutsu? I've got no idea. I didn't even see them go down. They've been mixed in. Look, they're mixed in. He's just losing a huge amount of Ozutsu here in the north, challenging this position. Manages to keep the castle alive, which is imperative. He needed to do that. So he made the right call in sacking the Vills. But then it felt like he jumped the gun a little bit here by not bringing all of his army at the same time. And now Firehick finds himself in a bit of an awkward spot because he lost a lot of Vills. And keep in mind that he's lost 27, whereas his opponent has taken, or rather, his opponent has killed 36, whereas he's killed 27. So they're both killed decent amounts. Okay, finally we see this town center coming down. Jeez Louise, it took a while. Because you've got to remember, right, and this is one of the things people often forget. A second town center is not just your way of getting to 130 Vills. It's also your way of rebuilding those 130 Vills in the event that you were to lose any. So if you lose 20 Vills, you're going to be able to rebuild them twice as fast with a second TC than you would with a single TC. And that's why that's a big problem with what just happened with Firehick. He loses all of these Vills, killing the siege, but at the end of the day, he's got to replace them with only a single TC. So he naturally makes the right decision for this secondary town center, but I can't help but feel it's just come a little bit too late. This probably should have come up... if you're not going to try and kill your opponent right here, right now, as soon as you see that, you look to try and emulate that or to try and match it. You can even do a more advanced technique and go for more. Go more TCs than your opponent. You know that they're investing in their economy. You can double down. All right, well, I call myself once again. But the army for the Rus begins to make its way across the map. More and more horsemen inside the base of Roger. He's quite happy with this little catch here. Firehick not paying attention, unable to really find any Vills. There's plenty of them down on this backside. But meanwhile, towards the front, Firehick's in a little bit of trouble. Have a look at the population difference here. 160 versus 200. Now, that's 20 of that is going to be villager count, but 20 of that is going to be military count as well. And there is a lot of Streltsy here. This is a manganellable amount of Streltsy, and that's what I'd like to start seeing Firehick moving into. He's got Roboldequin, which could be the answer to the front line, but what is going to help him against this many Streltsy? He needs to try and find these horsemen, find a way back through. We've got walls coming up across that bottom side, but now the focus is going to be, look at the Streltsy, look how quickly they're able to take down the Roboldequin, but it's almost a little bit of a bait here. You bring up the enemy Streltsy, and as soon as they start attacking the Roboldequin, Beautiful, beautiful micro right there coming through. Big Bombard's going to look to try and take out. There's the triple now coming through. Managed to take out all of those Revoldiquin. Hand Cannoneers moving up. We need to get more of a spread in. They've got they're focusing too much. We want to spread. So you see how he spread like that? That's exactly what he wants to do. You want to spread your Hand Cannoneers so that they've got a larger range of motion. If that makes sense. Basically, the more spread out they are, the more targets they'll have. If they're all stacked on top of each other, they're all going to acquire the same target. And you want them to acquire different targets because they do so much damage. If they all acquire the same target, they're going to end up doing 4,000 damage to a unit with 100 health. Whereas if you can use that line formation, they'll end up doing, 1,000 damage to each of these 4 targets rather than 4,000 to 1. That's the way that you want to try and maximize your efficiency with those Hand Cannoneers. Doesn't apply just to the Hand Cannoneers. Any ranged unit will take advantage of it, but there is an art to it. As an example, if you've got a whole bunch of archers in the second age and you're fighting up against knights, then instead of using the attack move on a line formation, you might want to use a little bit of a tighter formation and then just try and focus down knights. But when you've got these high damage units, the big focus is always going to be on spreading that damage as much as you can. All right, well, sorry. Is it okay with you guys if I just apologize every time I say it? Just to acknowledge that I know that I've made a mistake. And I know some people won't see it as a mistake. They'll say, Drongo, that's just how you cast. And I can appreciate that, but it's one of those things that I have become aware of and need to prevent. Streltsy numbers on the back, teeing off. Bombard's looking to try and take out enemy Bombards. No Mangonels here. No Revoldiquin here. And the Streltsy on the front line, rather, the Streltsy on the back line are able to melt the front line of the enemy, allowing the Horsemen to now have free reign over the enemy Hand Cannoneers. Not a lot of kiting is happening right now. Firehick needs to be on the move. There we go. But he doesn't have a lot of Hand Cannoneers out. Continuing to kite back. The gold in the north of the map is starting to run low. He's down to 3k. Could start thinking about getting some trade online. Don't have any trade at the moment for Roger either. But the walls have well and truly come up. Have a look at this. He's gone for a second layer of walls. And why not? You can't make stone walls, so you may as well make double the wooden walls. Towards that north side, we do start to see a Bombard making its way through. Just being very annoying, very cheeky. A couple wooden fortresses here to protect against any potential vills. Production numbers are increasing. Both players spending their resources relatively well, with the exception of Roger. But hey, when you're maxed like this, it's normal. It's normal. Horseman going to try and find a way through, but you can see the trouble that Firehick's got right now. And to me, it all just comes down to the lack of tempo, right? The lack of tempo is as a result of not having this second TC early enough. That's my diagnosis. What's our treatment? It's a couple of Gs. That's probably going to be the best way to treat this and head into the next game with a little bit more of an economic mindset, especially when you spot out the enemy with that second TC. You double down or you match it. It's got to be one of the two. But it's definitely not anything in the middle. Hand Cannoneers still trying to defend here. More units rallying towards this position. We've got plenty of tickets. He's making Ozutsu. And to be honest, I actually think the Hand Cannoneer is probably the better call in this position. Streltsy is still doing work. Look at the Streltsy mass. The fact that you're trying to challenge this is difficult. We need a mango. We need mangoes right now to challenge this. The problem is you make a mango and all of a sudden you're going to have a little bit of a problem as the Bombards are already out. Meanwhile, towards the north, look at these walls. Excuse me? Roger? These are getting excessive. And I'm not complaining. I'm just giving a little bit of social commentary on the state of walls in the current world. There you go. I mean, Mr. Trump was just elected again. So, look, there's going to be a lot more walls around these parts. Streltsy now. Teeing off. Taking out the reinforcements. Vill's going to get caught out once again. Firehick only about 15 Vills behind at the moment. But it's that big tempo window that's now going to cause that struggle. Firehick trying his best to hold in this position. 39 minutes into the game. Finally, we see a Mangonel. The first Mango. Keep in mind, no adjustable crossbars. There'd be no way he'd have it just yet with the first Mangonel arriving. We need to see more Mangoes, though. Honestly, I'd be thinking about going 3-4 Mangoes probably at this point. Make it difficult for your enemy. And you don't need to get adjustable crossbars, but it obviously helps out a huge amount if you can. We do see it coming through. Adjustable crossbars, the cost of about, what, 3 Mangonels, 4 Mangonels, something like that. but you will notice the difference. Even just with a single mangonel, you will notice the difference. It's kind of crazy just how powerful it is. All 3 sacred sites now held by Roger as he looks to transition into the late game. He wants to take this game. He's going to do it one way or another, whether it be through military force or whether it be through religious force. He will find a way. Streltsy pushing up. Mangonel on the move. Nice little kiting. Trying to unpack. Not going to get it shot off. Streltsy overwhelming. Huge amount of Streltsy on this front line. Where are the mangoes? Where is the fruit salad? He has absolutely turned the enemy front line into mincemeat right now. We've got a lot of food analogies in here. I'm hungry. What can I say? It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I haven't eaten since 5 p.m. yesterday. No, I take it back. It was like 3 p.m. 3 p.m. yesterday. It was Chinese hot pot, mulletong. Oh my lord, man. I tell you what, I am an absolute sucker for some mulletong. I don't know if you've seen it. Let me explain, okay? Because I didn't like the idea at first. But basically, you walk into this store, you put all of the vegetables and all of the meat into a pot that you want. You get to choose it. It's like a Subway. And it's fresh. And then you put it all in, you give it to the lady at the front counter, you tap your card, and then 5 minutes later, it comes out in soup form, and it's like, for me, it's chili. But you can choose what you want. Anyway, I always get like the real chili stuff. That's what I love. And I think my favorite thing about it is that all of the food absorbs the chili. And so you end up, instead of having a broccoli, you have a brocca-chili. And that's what makes it so much fun. I mean, it's fun when you're eating it. Not as fun later on in the evening. Anyway, let's move on, folks, as we are at 41 minutes into this game, and the Streltsy mass is starting to get a bit serious here. Plenty of spears, able to hold off, but have a look at what Firehick's doing. We don't see any movement around the back. He's not trying to connect with the Streltsy. He's just kind of letting it all go. And the result of that is that all of your cav is just dying so quickly. The Streltsy numbers continue to hold strong. Reinforcements moving across the map. It's a lot of horsemen coming through. Numbers continue to look good for Roger. He's up 80 population at the moment. Meanwhile, the bombards are working their magic from behind the walls. How can you fire through a fortified palisade wall? Explain that one, Atheist. Checkmate. More units reinforcing here. Firehick's definitely not given up just yet. The fact that he's on 98 vills as well is decent. But remember that the longer this game goes on, the closer we get towards that sacred victory. And now Firehick might be losing this second TC. He's had it up for about, what, 12 minutes? 14 minutes? Somewhere in that region? It's been a while that he's actually had it up. He's got some decent value out of it, but that's going to be the end of his value as it burns to the ground. 60 health remaining. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10. Actually, look, we can get a better voice than this. It's a bit hard to hear them with all the fighting that's going on. We need to get the Japanese Ashigaru hand cannoneer voice to just be everything. We should get that guy to do everything. How did I even find that guy? They must have gone to the entirety of Japan for that. That's the only way you could find talent like that. Horsemen now coming out. They actually have a decent connection here. On this back line, there's plenty of Streltsy to hit. Archers teeing off. Oh, he's moved into a whole bunch of elite Yumi Ashigaru. That's going to be his response here. He says it's an affordable unit. We got lots of resources in the bank that support it. And now the bombard numbers are starting to rise for Roger. He's up to 5. This all goes back to that Imperial age. Where are we? The High Armory. Now able to take out enemy siege. No mangonels down for him. Horseman doing a decent job of connecting with this front line. He's also apparently got a couple of knights out in here. And I guess that's just the lack of hand cannoneers. We're only on 300 gold a minute. We've lost our gold to the north. We've lost control of the gold to the south. There's not a whole lot of gold here. We ain't really able to trade. Our enemy's got triple sacred sites. Things aren't looking good. Things are looking bad. It looks like Firehick could be in trouble here. He's done a wonderful job this game to hold on as long as he has. But with more keeps coming up towards the front, the nail in the coffin is well and truly being driven in by the hammer. The hammer of the 5 great bombards. The Takanoshima gunsmith potentially going to be going down in the next couple of minutes, couple seconds even, as the tickets do come through. He's actually just going to focus the houses down. Instead of focusing down the production, he's going to just take out the houses, and you sort of cut the legs out from under the enemy that way. Streltsy working down villagers. Firehick trying to hold on. Meanwhile, Roger's just literally cutting out every single house that he can. Have a look at this. He is a madman. He is making Firehick mad. Firehick not going to be able to reinforce until he rebuilds all those houses. He's going to have to spam them down. You can see that's exactly what he's doing. It's a whole bunch of farmhouses back over here. But what do you think? What do you think goes faster? The farmhouse is built by a villager, or the farmhouse is killed by bombards? I got a feeling it's the bombards. 120 out of 120. More reinforcements rallying to the front, and a couple more production buildings as well. Sacred Victory is approaching. Firehick needs to find a way out of this. 50 vills down. Enemy's got double the military than he's got. Yumi Ashigaru going to try and tee off on that backline, doing a decent job, and that's going to be it. He realizes he can't win anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, leave, or go check out, don't leave, go check out Firehick. I'll leave a link in the description of where you can watch him live over on Twitch, and go check out EGC TV this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, 15 GMT. Be there or be square.